What's up, everyone? Alex here, and welcome to my little corner of the internet. I wanted to talk about, I guess, just a short video on struggling with being 35 years old and non-binary. Mostly the issue of being taken seriously in my identity, because I struggle a lot with that. And I mean, not even to mention like the body dysmorphia linked to being 35 and non-binary. And it's like, I can't even experiment with non-binariness because of my age. It feels like that's a different story, but like that struggle and I guess the assumption that I'm too old to be non-binary. A lot of bigoted folks would assume that being non-binary is kind of a phase that you eventually grow out of. You experiment with the gender thing and with labels and being non-binary, blue hair and pronouns and all that, and then you sort of move on from that, and it's like, okay, I'm done. This was fun. Now I'm like a boy again, or something like that. I feel like there's this assumption that being non-binary is a very childish experience, even though, you know, I'm in spaces where there are folks who are non-binary and they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, older than that. Like, there are elderly non-binary folks out there. Like, I think the assumption is that, like, it's just a phase and that you eventually grow out of it. And there's the assumption that there's something deeply wrong with adults who are non-binary. I've gotten comments like that before where it's like, you're in your 30s and you believe in this stuff. And it's like, well, it's not a belief system. I'm non-binary. That's just, of course I believe I'm non-binary, but I'm also just non-binary. There's no like belief about it. I can't wish it away. I can't go to a magical therapist who's going to like non-binaryify me. Like, I mean, there are attempts to do so. There's conversion therapy, and that's incredibly damaging to people's identity and psyche and their self-worth. So sure, you could force it out of a person, but first of all, what is the point in that? How does this identity affect anyone in any way, to the point where you think that abusive medicalized tactics like will help like get rid of the non-binary? It's such a weird thing. It's such a weird sentiment that like this is something inherently broken about this person that needs fixing, when there has never been any scientific proof that it is damaging to the person who is non-binary, nor anyone around that person, other than the only damage done to other people is the bigots who are very sensitive about genders that are seen as weird, as, you know, not conforming to the binary, etc., etc. But just the view that non-binary is a childish phase and nothing more, like, not the biggest struggle I have, but definitely a roadblock I have stumbled into for no reason. There's no reason for that to be anything that I have to deal with, and yet that is still a thing that exists when I'm navigating this whole gender thing. And there are just people who just want to laugh at it, that it's something that, you know, you should have gotten over years ago. Like, you should have had your non-binary phase and then moved on to something else. Very weird view to have about somebody's gender, of all things. I don't know. There's also the struggle of, you know, just in general, my non-binarity being seen as a phase, not even just a childish thing, just being seen as something experimental or transitional. And what I mean by that is it's sort of seen as an in-between state. I'm non-binary for a temporary amount of time, and then I'm finally fully something else, something binary. It's seen as something incomplete. Like, you're non-binary, it's vague, intangible. Eventually you'll settle on something that is like more permanent, I feel, is sometimes the view of non-binarity by bigots, by people who just don't want to understand the identity. I've seen people say like, "Oh, you're just confused." Like, you call yourself non-binary and it must mean you're confused, even though I've always been very assured in the things that I am. The whole point of this channel is I talk about my non-binary experience, and these are the facts about it. And I don't understand how that is seen as you're confused. That's a little odd. I have very clearly stated what I'm confused about if I'm questioning a certain aspect of my gender, but my cat is running through the hallway. I don't know if you heard that. Somebody crashed into the washing machine. That's just, I don't need kids. I have 4 cats. I've always told people that. But just the non-binary experience not being seen as a whole and complete gender. That, you know, if you're non-binary, you're expected to eventually move forward and settle on something more permanent. So it's like, I'm non-binary, I'm on testosterone. Well, eventually you'll settle in and you'll be a man and you'll be comfortable calling yourself a transgender man. But like, that's not like every non-binary person's end goal. There sometimes isn't an end goal. You're non-binary, you're taking testosterone. It doesn't mean you're moving forward into manhood and eventually you're going to be a man and then drop the non-binary label. That's not how that works. That's not at all, like, that's not the non-binary experience. It is not an in-between state or an incomplete state or a gender that, like, still needs some refining, or a gender that is moving towards something that you'll eventually call something else other than non-binary. I know I don't want my gender to be seen as like an experimental sort of thing, but I also feel like, due to my age, I don't really have the chance to experiment inwardly or outwardly with my non-binary identity. I feel like I kind of missed the chance to do so because I came out so late in life as non-binary, and I feel like the older I get, the weirder it is to experiment. I feel like that's not the kind of thing that's accessible to me, because just, you know, when you're younger, you experiment and then you eventually settle on something you're comfortable with. And I feel like I can't really experiment without it being seen as weird. And then it calls back to people assuming that I'm like confused because I'm experimenting with presentation, with pronouns, with other forms of expression. I did all of my gender experimentation in high school and my early 20s, and then I kind of settled into where I'm at now before coming out as non-binary, really. And I feel like I kind of missed the opportunity. I experimented with manhood and not so much non-binaryhood. I also have this fear of experimenting with gender being seen as disingenuous, like settle on something, pick something. Why are you playing around with gender instead of just genuinely being you and having something that makes sense and is consistent? Like, why experiment with it? I feel like I have this fear of, you know, you're a faker because you are experimenting with gender and not just being gender. Honestly, I wish that I had discovered that I was non-binary a lot sooner, because I feel like that would have given me more opportunity to experiment with pronouns, with presentation, labels, things like that. I feel like I kind of missed out on that because I just took so long to realize the signs were there. But growing up, you know, being in high school and all that, just like womanhood was so oppressive and also just not me. And so it makes it seem like I voluntarily moved away from girlhood into boyhood, that I chose to be a man because being a woman was too difficult, something like that's not the case. But it just like girlhood just didn't make sense to me because I wasn't a girl. That was the problem. But the extreme was that, I'm a boy instead, and I really wanted to make sure that people understood me as a boy and later as a man. So that was always the focal point, is making sure people knew that I was not a girl. So it kind of got in the way of me ever exploring options for being non-binary. I feel like just this whole focus on manhood, on passing, on being seen as a man and being respected in such, I feel like that pulled away from being able to explore what it means to be non-binary. There's also the I just kind of assumed non-binary was separate from male and female entirely, and that it couldn't be me because I was a man. If I'm a man, I can't be non-binary. That was just kind of the thought, because I just didn't understand the non-binary experience. I didn't know non-binary men and women were a thing. I didn't know that people could have more than one gender. It was just kind of a mess of just putting myself down and all that, and then just avoiding non-binary because that was not my culture. That was not my experience. So I wish that I knew that had been an option sooner. I feel like I would have been more settled into my non-binary identity now instead of wanting to experiment right now, sort of thing. And then there's the other point I wanted to make, feeling like I am too old for non-binary spaces online. The older I get, it just feels like non-binary spaces stay around the same age range. And I feel like I'm getting older and missing these groups, missing these spaces that I could contribute to, be a part of. I know that there's all age groups more commonly than there are 21 plus groups, 30 plus groups. I'm in a 30 plus non-binary group on Facebook. It definitely makes me feel my age. But in the all ages groups, they still tend to stay within the same 14 to mid 20s kind of range. Maybe lower early 20s. Just never the late 20s, never 30s. I feel like I'm so out of place. And I mean, I could obviously, I can be valuable in spaces like that because I have so much experience with being non-binary, and people would love to hear the firsthand experiences of somebody who is 35 and non-binary. But at the same time, it just feels weird being in a space like that. Because I can be the non-binary elder, but then sometimes those spaces are for other conversations too, fandom or other hobbies and interests, and those things I can't really participate in. I just, it feels weird to me. But discussing gender or giving advice when people ask me, I do kind of like that. I mean, I have the blog Your Bigender Big Brother, and I feel like I'm falling more into the older brother archetype. I feel like that's my role, and I'm getting a little better at being more of the mentor role. It's not a literal familial role. I'm really not. I don't have a very good experience with family or being an older brother. I'm an older brother of 3 siblings. I'm an uncle of 7. I think that's nuts to think about. But just, I don't know. I just dealing with the age and fitting in with non-binary spaces online. It's getting harder and harder. I did recently find a trans guy on Tumblr who's almost 50 years old, and he talks a lot about his experiences. He has like a whole sort of diary, he calls it, and it's his experience with top surgery and everything that, he had to face, the healing process and all that. And he just talks about his hobbies, his everyday life. And like, that's the kind of mentor like role I would love to have. I just don't know how to do it. But if I can find more older non-binary folks, older trans men online, that's a really good, like even if it's not like a space for older non-binary folks or trans men, if I can find others who just discuss their own experiences online like that, I feel would be really good inspiration for me, or really good like motivation, I guess, just like making me feel better about myself, because there's so, like, this, a lot of these spaces online are meant for younger folks, or are just majority younger folks, and it's really hard to fit in. It's not even just like I don't know how to fit in with my peers. It's fitting in with the whole community. Like, that is a struggle for me right now. That was pretty much it. Just kind of a rant on feeling my age and just trying to navigate being this age and being non-binary and all the little struggles and weirdness that come with it. I don't know. It's a work in progress. We all are works in progress. I just don't know where to be me. Other than like, there's spaces where I just kind of talk about my experiences, and then people happen to like find my blogs, and like other spaces where I, discuss these kind of things. But never a group, never like, I have like a Discord server, and it is all ages, but a lot of people there are younger. I don't know. It's a mixed bag, but that's pretty much it. Just wanted to rant about that, about being non-binary and all that. I'm experimenting with a new schedule, uploading Fridays as well as Mondays. Mondays are the like identity talk, back to talking about my own personal experiences, and then the Fridays are just related experiences, but not necessarily my own. It's where I'm explaining certain gendered concepts and all that. I'm very tempted to go back to gaming on this channel. I don't know. I don't think I should care how popular that kind of stuff is. I was playing Animal Crossing New Horizons on this channel for a while. I think I privated those videos because I just hated that nobody was really like caring about those videos. They weren't caring about like gaming content, because there are dedicated channels for that. I used to have a gaming channel, and then I realized that like, it's such a saturated market. It's really hard to stand out unless you were already standing out in this like genre to begin with. So it's tough to want to do gaming on this channel, but also I shouldn't really care about like if other people don't care about the content. Like, I should just go ahead and do it. But I considered that like every so often doing, I'm looking at my schedule on the wall, every so often doing like gaming content. I don't know how interesting that would be, but I mean, it would be very chill stuff, not anything too dialogue heavy or too like intense. Animal Crossing, Minecraft, Story of Seasons, those are the things that come to mind when I think just relaxing and gaming. Like those, that kind of stuff is fun. And like classic gaming, I think that would be really cool. I have access to all kinds of classic titles that I can like record on the channel. Like, I think that would be kind of fun, but we'll have to see. I don't know yet. I want things to be different. I need a change in my life, and I need to change around how I'm doing things on the interwebs. But anyway, I am signing off for now. See you later.